Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a science fiction crime film, The Soul. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with two policemen arriving at an opulent mansion in the middle of the night after receiving an emergency call from the chairman of a cancer research technology corporation. The maid hurriedly lets them in and leads them through a hallway and to a door marked with a strange symbol. They step inside the room and see the chairman and his wife murdered and lying on the floor with blood everywhere. An ornate dagger is found near the wife's body. Suddenly, she moves, and the policeman steps back in shock. The scene cuts to a pregnant detective attending a prenatal checkup in the hospital with her prosecutor husband. The ultrasound looks good, and their baby is healthy. The couple then goes to their next appointment, this time to an oncologist for the latest diagnosis of the prosecutor's cancer. The latest scans show that the cancer cells inside his body have metastasized and are resisting the chemotherapy he has been undergoing. If the cells spread to his brain, he will die soon. His oncologist recommends that he sign up for an experimental clinical trial for RNA restoration. On the way from the hospital, the couple argues about their financial situation. The preliminary genetic testing alone will cost them hundreds of thousands, and the clinical trial would cost them more. The prosecutor goes to the station to talk to his boss. He informs him that his wife is pregnant, and he is worried that he'll be leaving them penniless when he dies. He asks his boss to assign him to a case, so he can work while he still can. He even volunteers for the chairman murder case, and assures his boss that he's the only one fit for the job. The first task for the prosecutor's investigative team is interviewing the wife, who stands to inherit everything her husband had left behind. She arrives at the station and is ushered into a room, where the detective is waiting to interrogate her. The detective's husband is watching everything from behind a one-way mirror in the room. The wife begins to tell them what happened the previous night. She had noticed the strange symbol on the door of her husband's room, and entered to check on him. She immediately smells the pungent scent of burning incense, and discovers that the chairman's estranged son is in the room, and performing a ritual on the chairman. He was uttering an incantation to summon Buddhist gods for reincarnation. The chairman, who is gravely ill, could not move as his son performed the ritual. He manages to dial the police, right before the son repeatedly bashed his head in with the dagger. The wife tried to stop him, but failed. The wife further reveals that the son has been on bad terms with his father ever since his mother, the first wife, died. She also says that the son and his mother dabbled in the occult. A doctor who is one of the most trusted friends of the chairman, and named as his second successor in the will, is also summoned to the station. The detective asks him why he and the wife are named inheritors, instead of the son. He explains that the chairman disinherited his son, and wanted nothing to do with him. Meanwhile, the maid is also brought in for questioning. She tells the detective that the first wife was deeply unhappy during their marriage. The chairman had grown cold towards her, and she began to suspect that he was having an affair. Eventually, she committed suicide, and their son never forgave his father for making his mother miserable. The years passed, and the chairman became terminally ill. To everyone's surprise, he took a young and attractive woman as his second wife. So the rift between father and son grew. Back in his spot behind the one-way mirror, the prosecutor reviews the crime scene report and notices that the killer probably is left-handed. He looks up and sees that the wife is also left-handed. After the interviews, he ordered the other detectives on the team to dig deeper into the first wife's fatal accident. The detective visits the crime scene and discovers a book on the occult previously owned by the first wife. She also notices that there is a camera installed in the second wife's room. She finds out that it was the doctor who installed the camera with the wife's consent, but he doesn't explain why. The detective returns to the station and gives a briefing to the team and the prosecutor. She goes over the mysterious death of the first wife. Apparently, the first wife had contacted a journalist on the day of her death and said she would expose the chairman. She asked the journalist to meet her near their house, but when the journalist arrived, the first wife jumped to her death from the terrace. It's reported that before she jumped, she threw a bunch of papers from the balcony, but they were never recovered. The detective highlights that the media had reported her death as an accidental fall, and not as a suicide. She then discusses the contents of the book of the occult that she found. She explains that before her death, the first wife had conducted a ritual condemning her own soul, in exchange for cursing her husband. Right after she died, the chairman was diagnosed with brain cancer, and his company began to suffer losses. In addition, there were also traces of the paralytic belladonna found in her lungs, and the incense her son later used also had belladonna. The team views the footage of the camera the detective found. The wife displays erratic behavior in the video, convulsing in her sleep and talking to the ghost of the first wife. They conduct a hearing to formally review the footage as evidence and question the wife. She reveals that ever since she moved into the house, she felt like she was being watched. After hearing about the first wife's demise, she becomes convinced that the first wife's ghost wants to possess her. The prosecutor undergoes another chemotherapy session. While waiting, he scrolls through articles about the doctor. He finds a tabloid article linking him and the first wife as lovers. He also finds another article detailing the two as the heads of the RNA restoration project of the chairman's company. His detective wife visits him in his hospital bed, and he goes through the footage again with her. He points out that the chairman's wife did start acting strangely after a few months. She entered the house as a shy and modest girl, and then became more elegant and confident. The prosecutor also noticed that initially, the wife was right-handed, but is now left-handed. What's more, her signature had even changed. The doctor unveils the RNA restoration therapy that is forecasted to save the ailing company. RNA restoration works by distilling the RNA into a powder and applying it to the affected areas of the brain. But its most promising potential is its capability to transfer one consciousness to another host's body. After the event, the detective and the prosecutor interview the doctor once again. He reveals that the initial plan was that the wife would bear the chairman a new heir, and the doctor will use their RNA technology to remove the cancer gene from the fetus. The wife became pregnant, but the treatment also made her prone to seizures and hallucinations. The doctor also reveals that he used the technology to try to prolong the chairman's life. This is the same experimental RNA surgery that the prosecutor's oncologist recommended to him previously. The prosecutor shows the doctor the CCTV footage of him and the wife acting all cozy in her room. He also reveals that the journalist who witnessed the first wife's suicide had confessed that the doctor was actually there in the scene, and that he paid him off to stay quiet regarding his involvement. The doctor must have collected all the incriminating papers the first wife threw off the balcony, which is why no one else had gotten a hold of them. Based on that, the prosecutor then accuses the doctor of having an affair with both of the chairman's wives, and attempting to use the RNA restoration technology to transfer the first wife's soul to the second wife's body. The police later arrest the son at his hiding place in a remote mountain. They sit him and the wife down to finally set the record straight. The wife gives herself a paper cut and squeezes blood out of the wound. The lights in the station flicker. The son shares that for his mother's death anniversary, he went home to pay his respects. The second wife gave him a letter from his mother detailing instructions on how he could finish the ritual and kill the chairman, so her soul could ascend to paradise. This is what propelled him to kill his father. The wife then appears to be possessed by the spirit of the first wife, and she thanks the son for killing the chairman. She clasps his hand with her bloodied hand, and then faints due to her hematophobia. Meanwhile, the prosecutor's condition worsens. He can no longer bathe and relieve himself, and he has lost a lot of weight. His wife is able to get him into the experimental RNA clinical trial, but the treatment is hard on his body. Despite it all, he still works on the case from his hospital bed. On the other side of the city, the wife frantically calls the police after the doctor tries to kill her, and chases her through the house. The doctor then escapes. The prosecutor reviews the audio recordings extracted from the cell phone that the chairman used to call the police on the night of his murder. He discovers that his detective wife had actually edited the recording to cut out the part where the wife confronted the chairman after he was attacked by his son and demanded that he turn over the company to her. He confronts the detective, and she admits that she blackmailed the wife with the evidence and asked her to give the prosecutor a slot in the RNA clinical trial in exchange for her erasing that part of the recording. The prosecutor gets angry with his wife for sacrificing her morals and jeopardizing her job for him, because even though the RNA surgery can prolong his life, it wouldn't matter much if his cancer would come back anyway. He confesses that he is tired of being sick and that he wants to die soon and be free of the pain. The wife arrives at the station to give her statement regarding the incident. She says that the doctor visited her the previous night to give her more injections for her baby, but he began to demand that she relinquish control of the company over to him. When she refused, the doctor began to chase her. The prosecutor arrives at the station in a wheelchair and confronts the wife about the recordings. He accuses her of masterminding the murder plot by fabricating the letter she gave to the son on his mother's death anniversary, which later spurred him to do the ritual and ultimately kill the chairman. The prosecutor then has an epiphany, noting the many similarities in the voice and tone of the chairman and the wife. He surmises that instead of transferring the first wife's consciousness to the second wife's body, the doctor had actually transferred the chairman's consciousness. He shares his theory with the wife, and she gives him a chilling look and leaves. Later that night, the prosecutor and the detective make up. He tells her that he wants her to be happy even after he's gone, but she tells him that all she wants is him. The next day, the detective leaves for work and the doctor visits the prosecutor at their home. He reveals that he and the chairman were actually lovers and that the chairman had always felt like he was a woman. But the chairman had to hide his true identity because he was a public figure and revealing the truth would cause negative publicity for his company. As a result, he also married his first wife, one of the researchers working under him, and they kept up the appearance of a happy couple. But behind closed doors, he was actually neglecting his wife, which sent her into a depression. The doctor felt guilty that he was the cause of the first wife's unhappiness, and so he became close to her. The doctor and the first wife began to work on the RNA project, and the chairman had the idea of using the technology to transfer his soul to a body of a woman. However, the first wife later discovered their affair and cursed the chairman before committing suicide. The papers she had thrown off the balcony before jumping were actually pictures of the chairman and the doctor together in their trysts. Shortly after, the chairman became sick with cancer. The RNA project was their last chance of saving the chairman, so they picked a second wife from an orphanage and the chairman married her. They told her they were just going to do an RNA treatment on her to make sure their baby won't carry the cancer gene. But the truth was that the doctor was working on transferring the chairman's soul to his young wife's body. It was a slow process consisting of many sessions, but eventually, the chairman gained consciousness in the body of his second wife. They also planned on transferring his soul yet again to the baby when it comes of age, as the chairman could go on living forever. But remnants of the chairman's consciousness still dwelled inside his original body. He became confused, paranoid, and distrustful, and he wanted the wife out of the picture. And so the wife, with the chairman's consciousness inside her, began to plan the chairman's demise, so she could be the only one calling the shots in the company. The doctor was horrified at her plan, and he realized that whoever was inside the wife's body was no longer the chairman he loved. He tried to correct his mistakes by attempting to murder the wife. He told her he was just going to do a routine surgery to fully erase the wife's original consciousness from the body, but he was really going to murder her. She got wind of his plans and attacked him. So he fled and has been on the run since. Finishing his confession, the doctor urges the prosecutor to go after the wife. The prosecutor agrees. He visits the wife's house with the doctor in disguise. He enters her study with the doctor hiding in the waiting room. The prosecutor asks the wife if she still loves the doctor. She answers that whatever she felt for him, she had left that behind in her previous life. Upon hearing this, the doctor enters the study and sprays her with a liquid that renders her unconscious. Suddenly, news agencies begin to report that the wife is announced by her lawyer to have resigned from her position as chairman. The doctor visits the chairman's bedroom one last time and commits suicide on his bed. The detective comes home to find her husband gone. She discovers a flash drive with a recording of him stored. In his message, the prosecutor tells her they took the blame for the alteration of the audio recording to protect her. He says goodbye to her and tells her he loves her. It is revealed that the chairman's wife has pled guilty to the murder of the chairman and is sentenced to jail. The prosecutor dies shortly after. The movie ends with the detective visiting the wife in prison after giving birth. She shows her the baby, with tears raining down her cheeks. In a final twist, it turns out that after knocking her out, the doctor transferred the prosecutor's soul to the wife's body. With him controlling her body, she resigned from the CEO position and pleaded guilty. The prosecutor is now living in her body, imprisoned but alive. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.